in preparation for the Zack Snyder Justice League, I thought it was a good idea to return to the Zack Snyder Trilogy of DC films. So we've started this week with Man of Steel. Before we begin, would you like some facts and figures about Man of Steel?
Yes, please.
Oh, good. I'm glad you do.
I don't really have a choice on the matter, do I? So yes.
No, you don't. I'm fully in control here. Yeah. So it was made for a budget of between $225 million to $258 million, and it made $668 million, which sounds good, but it's not that good. I'll tell you that now. It is not that good, especially for a Superman film, and especially as a year before the Avengers had just made $1 billion, and I think Iron Man 3 came out the same year, and that also made $1 billion, which is pretty amazing when you think Iron Man film basically got double the amount of box office that a Superman film got.
Dark Knight Rises year before as well, right?
And Dark Knight Rises year before, which obviously I think this film very much it lends itself to. It takes a lot of those ideas, especially with Christopher Nolan being
absolutely
the producer. And I would feel if you weren't a big fan of like superhero films, you would imagine that this film was part of that universe. And I think that was the original plan. I truly think that was the original plan, that this was going to be part of the Dark Knight universe. But until then, obviously, they went ahead with their plans, and Nolan didn't want to do it anymore. Christian Bale didn't want to do it anymore, and they probably scrapped that. But I think that was an idea in their heads that they could maybe fold it in. Okay, one quick question before we get into the film. Rotten Tomatoes is the best way to judge a film. I always say it. It's the best way. Obviously, that's not true. But what do you think is the approval rating on this film? What percent do you reckon Man of Steel has?
72%.
Wrong. There's a 56 approval rating.
Oh, wow.
56%.
Wow.
Which I think is harsh.
I think that's very harsh.
I do think it's harsh. Yeah. Because I think in this little piece, because I have a lot of thoughts on this film, and I want to get it out there, it's going to sound like I'm giving it a kicking. But I like more than I don't like in this film. I think the film doesn't work because I think it falls apart because of the aspects I don't like. But overall, I do like this film.
Okay.
But I can just see it now when I make a video for this. I'm going to get so much abuse because it's sacrilege to criticize these films. But overall, I like more than I don't like. Well, let's talk about Krypton, because it's a complete nonsense. And what a interesting and strange way to start this film, with a 20-minute sequence on this absolute nonsense planet where nothing really makes any sense. They're riding avatar birds. His wife's giving birth to a baby in this big empty room with no one about. It's like, well, what even do people do on this fucking planet? like what do you do?
Krypton? Like what?
Yeah. But I love it. I think it is interesting, and it's something completely different from, say, the Chris Reeve Supermans, which was just like all weird crystals. But I love it. Well, did you enjoy that? What did you think of like a 20-minute sequence which doesn't show Superman in a Superman film? It's just all about Krypton.
I completely forgot about the opening scene of it, but I absolutely loved it. I thought it was actually really, really cool. I think I was just about to call him Kurt Russell, not Kurt. What's his name?
Russell
Crowe. Fucking love him. Loved him.
He is good. Yeah, he is very
good.
And
the camaraderie and the back and forth between himself and Zod, I think, is brilliant.
That does bring me to my next shot. My next point, Michael Shannon, he's fantastic.
Excellent Zod. Excellent. Yeah.
He is great. He physically looks brilliant. And I think what helps make this villain quite good, and I think it's probably one of the most strongest villains in all the DC films, is he has a point to an extent, and that's what all good villains have. Like, you go through the whole way and you think like, well, why doesn't Russell Crowe why isn't he on his side? And then you realise it's the weird racist stuff.
Yeah.
What I do really like about this General Zod, you understand him, and he's basically been pushed that little bit too far, and he wants mass genocide and
As you do.
You know, racist bloodline stuff. But other than that, he has
I understand the character. It's the same way how I sympathise in a way with Thanos. Like I get it, man. Like
the man wanted mass genocide. you can't support.
You know what I'll also say about that opening 20-25 minutes, right? Considering this film came out in 2013, I think the visuals are stunning. Absolutely stunning.
See, I think the visuals are very good. But there's a point in it with General Zod with Michael Shannon that, you know, for a lot of the part he wears that sort of big mechanical suit, and that falls apart and gets a bit wonky during the film. I mean, it didn't, you know, it's not how I don't then say, oh, I don't like the film now because of that. And I appreciate he does strip away the armor and we can just see him in his Superman onesie.
I love that,
fighting away. Yeah, I love that stuff as well. I don't think he should have been killed, and I think he should have been a recurring character. I think he should have just been taken to the Phantom Zone. But we'll come on to like the killing stuff, and it made me laugh when he gets Superman up on his ship, and he's, you know, they're kind of doing that like little back and forth, and I think he's trying to trick him. He's trying to be a little bit sneaky and say, you know, come to our side, and then Superman has his little vision, and Dwight from the US office is chatting to him about that. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to kill everyone and create a new Krypton. And then you look and Superman's standing on just a sea of skulls. And I thought, if you want to convince him to help you, I don't think this is the best way by traumatizing him completely. By getting buried in the skulls of his loved ones. Because up to that point, I was like, up to that point, I'm like, oh, it's a really good villain, because I'm going, well, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he just go on his side? Oh, it's the weird skulls that you're drowning in. Is that that probably convinced him?
He was very much on board with it until Zod obviously says that, you know, he's like, well, what happens to the people of Earth? And then, well, I'm gonna kill everybody. Like, yeah. But up to that point, he's actually he looks as though he's kind of on board with the idea. Like,
and that's what makes a good villain, when you're like, well, the hero wants to join them, but he needs to, you know, see past that. But instead of seeing past that, he just gets drowned in a load of skulls. So I appreciate a lot of Superman's backstory is told through flashbacks.
Yeah, I like that as well.
I appreciate that a lot, and they didn't spend extended time showing us his backstory. But I still think they don't make any sense.
Okay, explain.
Because, so, there's an early on scene which I want to talk about a little bit. Is he's in a bar, and the guy's making no trouble. We'll come on to the scene because I quite like.
I like that scene.
And he destroys his livelihood by putting his truck through all those wooden poles, and then it cuts to another flashback where it says, you know, like, who are you gonna be? What kind of hero are you gonna be? Well, we already know he's a vengeful asshole. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't make any sense that they're saying, well, you know, you're gonna be great, and who are you gonna be? But you've just shown us that he's not that. So what the hell is the point of all this? Is that too far, what he did to that guy?
What, with
destroying his livelihood?
No.
I don't think so either. I think he had it coming. Yeah. And I love that moment when he pushes him and he's just a fucking wall. Yeah. He just bounces right back off him. And he's like, what the fuck just happened there? But I like it how he's like, yeah, you're just a dumb nerd. And you know what it reminded me of? And I was chuckling to myself, because first of all, why would a man he's like a foot shorter than him and like a lot skinnier, and he's like, yeah, you're just some nerd who's waiting tables. And like, even if he was just a normal 6'4" man built like that, when you pushed him, he still wouldn't move very far.
No, absolutely not. No chance.
What did he think was going when he pushed him, that he was going to go flying across the room?
I really, really, really like the Smallville fight. I think it's very cool the way it's done. Just getting thrown through fucking those buildings. I'm not a massive fan of the Metropolis fight.
Yes, well, I was going to come on to that bit, but we can do that now. Let me just grab my notes.
Sorry,
the the Smallville fight is better.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely better because he actually actively saves people.
Yeah.
I think he saves 2 maybe, but he's actively trying, and I like the aspects of it that, you know, he's fighting that woman, but he's just getting trounced because why would he know how to fight?
Yeah.
Just being a bulldozer doesn't mean you can then just fight. You know, they're just fucking doing kung fu and just swinging knees and elbows at him, and he what can he do? They're soldiers, and he's been on a farm his whole life.
Yeah.
And I like that. That is interesting, and where I think I like that the guns are then actually causing problems for the Kryptonians, and they can actually damage them because then it doesn't take them out of the fight. But then as it continues, then suddenly the guns stop working. I noticed that then they're just shooting them and it's doing nothing, and then suddenly there's just bit parts in it when I preferred when they could actually actively take part in this fight. But I do prefer the Smallville fight. I think the big reason why I didn't like the Metropolis fight is because we just spent half an hour of mindless sort of fighting and explosions, and then by then it's getting obnoxious.
I agree.
I know some people argue the point of the Metropolis fight, it shouldn't matter all the sort of disasters they're doing, but I think it does. I think it's too much. It is. When him and General Zod are fighting in the middle of Metropolis, they flattened it. It's rubble.
Yeah.
And all I was thinking this whole time, like, you've killed half that city, and I think Snyder's gone on record said, about 3,000 to 4,000 people died. Bullshit. That many died. You killed half the city there, and I think a big point of why the Metropolis fight is bad compared to, say, something like Avengers, which came out a year before, is, first of all, the Avengers are actively stopping the fight to save people. Yeah. That is a big part of what they're doing. And also, they're fighting a faceless army, the Avengers. So, and it sounds bad, but people don't care about that. It's why, like, Star Wars works, and they can kill as many stormtroopers as possible because they're faceless entities. But the Metropolis fight, you've just got 2 guys fighting, and everyone else is in the middle. Yeah, and that's why it doesn't work, and it gets loud and obnoxious. And I don't like that fight, and I think that's one of the big reasons why this film kind of falls apart, because you've just spent an hour and 10 of them punching each other in the face.
Yeah, and I think at the end of that, like the end of the big fight, like one of the people who work for the Daily Planet is like, "Oh, you saved us," and I'm just watching it going, "Has he? Like, look around you. The whole fucking city is fucked." Like,
there's a scene when Zod kicks like a big oil tanker towards him, and he just kind of floats himself up and over it and back down, and like looks kind of
just
cool.
Allows it to
and then
just,
and it rolls into that big car park, explodes the whole building, and the whole visual of it looks incredible. It looks fantastic, and it's really cool. But I was like, Superman wouldn't do that. Why would he just let that go past him? And, you know, a huge explosion which must have killed hundreds of people, he would try and stop it. He would try and...
You know, when Snyder was putting this together, he would not think about that. He's all about his visuals, isn't he? That's what he goes for. He's a cinematographer.
Yeah, what looks cooler. Yeah, a nice bit, you know, that big explosion, and Superman's looking great, standing in front of it, looking, you know, kind of cool. But that's like in Superman 2, and I don't want it to be the Christopher Reeve Supermans, and I'm glad this film does do different stuff with him. But that's like how General Zod sees Superman's weakness, is while they're fighting, he's saving people, and he's seeing it as his own morality. Yeah. Is his downfall because he cares about these people.
Even Zod says that to him in the film, either him or someone else. He says, like, his biggest downfall. He's like, your biggest downfall is the fact that you've been living with these humans and you can't feel the emotion. You've got their emotions, but then in the final scene, you see none of that emotion. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
This whole film is all about Superman is Superman, and that's kind of one of the reasons I think it falls apart. Is Superman is always Superman, which is something I don't like about the film. So when Jor-El sends him off to Earth, he's like, he's going to be brilliant, this kid. He's going to be the bee's knees. He's going to be fantastic. But that's never been the point of Superman. You know, the idea was his parents send them away because obviously their planet's getting destroyed, and it's only by luck and by chance that the Kents take care of him, see his abilities, and from there they raise him right, and they're saying, you're meant for more than, just being like a farmhand. That's what you're meant for, greater things. And through that parenting, he becomes greater. But throughout the whole film, they're always saying, you are Superman. The first time we see Henry Cavill, he's saving people. So if he's always Superman, then how did this happen? Everyone knows he's going to be Superman because they're in a Superman film, and that's something that just falls apart for me. I don't understand why is he doing these things? Why is he helping people? A good comparison can be made with Iron Man. Why is Iron Man Iron Man? Well, he makes weapons, he gets caught by some terrorists, realises what his weapons are doing, and he makes a change. He makes a change that actually he should be helping people, not developing these weapons. And there's no kind of thing for that for Superman. There's no reason why he's just doing this. Even as a kid, he's just saving people. And then this is what comes on to my next point. And Jonathan Kent is telling him not to. So what do you think of Jonathan Kent in this film?
I never saw a problem with him. I never had an issue with him at all until you told me you had an issue with him, and then I started thinking about it, and then I realised that you're kind of right.
I think it's a miracle he didn't end up like the kid from Brightburn because of Jonathan Kent. I think it's an absolute miracle. But then I thought about it, that would be more interesting, but I think you could do it in a way that if you want to do this morally ambiguous Superman, then it kind of works.
Yeah.
If you're saying that, actually, no, he's still trying to find his feet from what his father taught him. It wasn't the best, and he's still kind of towing that line, and then maybe he could become more hopeful. But they're saying he's just Superman, and he's just odd the way Jonathan Kent speaks to him when he's like, oh, should I let those kids die? Yeah, maybe. I'm like, what? Why should he have done that? I don't understand. And then he tells him, oh, it's going to be incredible when everyone sees what you can do. And you're like, but which one is it? And there's a scene when Henry Cavill talks to Amy Adams, and he says, "The world isn't. My father told me the world isn't ready yet for my powers." I'm like, what are you talking about? We're not talking about like do you mean the world isn't ready? And then I thought, was he meaning this Zod fight? Was that when the world was ready? How the fuck did he know about that?
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
Yeah, I get the idea. I get the whole idea behind it, but there's no... the script is all over the place with regards to it. It doesn't make sense in the whole context of things. I understand the concept of the human race is not ready to see what you are capable of. They won't be able to, they're going to judge you, they're going to this, they're going to that, they're going to look at you differently. But then it doesn't make any sense to when the right time to actually do that is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's where the film was going, oh, see, that was the right time. What are you on about? How did he know that? How did he feel like, well, the right time isn't now for you to save children because, in a few years, something massive will happen. If you're doing it in this hyper-realistic world, which is what the general idea was to begin with these films, then it should have been him going out and helping people. And that's a big part of what he is in the comics. And it's just like, let's talk about when he dies. What do you feel about that death scene? Because this is what I've wrote. He's a dumb dad who got killed by a tornado, and I think it's one of the dumbest scenes I've ever seen.
It really took me out of it. I'm not going to lie. Do you know what? Funnily enough, actually, when the scene ended, I actually rewinded it because I was kind of like, I wasn't sure if I had watched the whole scene correctly. But I definitely had watched it correctly. It didn't sit right with me at all.
No, and usually when they do Jonathan Kent's death, it's like a heart attack or something that's out of his control.
Yes, and that's how it should be done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to humanize him and realize that despite every incredible power he has, there's just some things he can't change, and he has to deal with that. But he could have easily saved him. And I don't understand...
That's what pisses me off so much, yeah.
I don't understand why, but he's like... they go, oh, we've left the dog. And Superman goes, right, I'll go get him. And he goes, no, you don't do that. alluding to the fact that it would be weird if you come out of this alive, so I'll go do it. So but what if he then came out alive, a 60-year-old man who then went into the middle of a tornado?
It's so dumb. And what I don't get as well is, like, even when the dog comes back, there is still time for him to go and get his dad. And
he could go in quick enough, no one would know what the fuck was happening, and take him out another side.
There is so much time. There's time to do that 3 or 4 times over.
Exactly. And it's like, I don't understand. Like,
that is Snyder being Snyder. That is Snyder being Snyder. And then
what's the lesson?
The lesson is, let me show you my visual effects and let me get a tornado on screen.
I think the point of it was they needed a dramatic scene to move the plot forward, and this is what it did.
But did it really, though?
I like the Superman stuff in this. I'm not keen on the Clark Kent stuff, but I guess they would have went further with that, because obviously this is the start of Clark Kent. But I feel, because they focus so much on Superman in this and not much on Clark Kent, and I like Clark Kent, but because the idea of Clark Kent is he's this bumbling idiot, and I don't think Henry Cavill really shows that much of him, because the idea is he looks overweight, he looks puffy. It's For All Seasons does it really well, that he's like all hunched over and he just looks like this big fat man who's just a bit of a moron. And I feel Snyder's like, no, I don't want to focus on that big dumb nerd. I'm going to focus on Superman, because even when he's not Superman, he still looks like he looks like Henry Cavill. Who would have thought? And I was thinking, do you remember in Kill Bill Volume 2? Bill is talking to the bride about comics, and he talks about Superman, and I feel Snyder got a lot of his ideas from this, because he says he likes Superman because Superman's alter ego is Clark Kent, not Superman, whilst say Bruce Wayne, his alter ego is Batman. So they're saying he is Superman, not Clark Kent, and I think that's bullshit. That's total bullshit, and I think that's what this film wants you to think, that he is Superman just because he's Superman, but he's Clark Kent first because he's lived here his whole life, and he's got those ideals of life as a human, but this film writes him as not fitting in, not understanding what it means to be human, when really that's all he should be about. He's very human. He had 2 very good parents, and he has a very good moral compass, and I like that stuff, that he doesn't fit in, of course he doesn't, but that's like his whole life, instead of it should be quite a minor part of his life, because he's been able to develop that moral compass.
I like that. I've learned a lot from this show today.
I think the problem with this is, first of all, at the start, Jor-El is already saying he'll be Superman, he'll be brilliant. But why will he? You don't know who he is. You don't know who he is as a person. He's a baby. Why are you saying he's going to be Superman? And then look at this with fresh eyes. If you've never heard of Superman, you'd be like, well, why is that happening? And I don't like all the Jesus references. That's not what Superman's about. I like the idea that the world would see him as Jesus, but the idea of Superman is he's so meager and so down to earth that you'd be like, no, don't be stupid. I'm not, like, that's not who I am. That's not, I'm just me. I'm just, first and foremost, he is a human. That's how he sees himself. He's like, I'm just someone who's trying to help, and I have that, and he just sees it as his obligation. But I hate all the Jesus references, and I even see it as, he's this first natural birth, and that's like kind of like a Jesus reference. It's saying, like the virgin birth, Virgin Mary birth, that he's the first natural birth, and that means he's going to be amazing and destined for great things. That's never been a part of the character, and it's
so
just not for me.
You don't think that Snyder has grasped the character of Superman well at all, do you?
I don't think he's grasped him well. No, I think he just sees him as Superman. He's just gone. He's Superman because he is Superman, and I think he definitely took a lot from Kill Bill. I think he took a lot from that kind of how he sees Superman, that is who he is, not Clark Kent. But actually Clark Kent's a big part of who he is, because he's had his years of upbringing, his family, kind of make sure he keeps 2 feet firmly on the ground. And, the whole time they say you have an obligation because you've been given these great powers. That why wouldn't you help people? You should help people. And there's like a scene before Jonathan Kent dies. He's like, be a farmer. Yeah. That would never happen. He would always say you're meant for more.
I would actually argue. I would actually argue. This might be slightly controversial, but I would actually argue that he is more Clark Kent. So he should be more Clark Kent than he should be Superman, like you've just said.
Yes.
More so than I feel that Batman should be more Batman than he should be Bruce Wayne.
Yes,
because I feel the minute his parents were killed in front of him, the Batman persona now becomes him, and he's no longer the Bruce Wayne. If that makes sense, like
the thing about Superman is, other than obviously his home planet completely exploding, he's not much of a tragic character. Yeah. He's in his eyes, he's had a great upbringing. He had a fantastic upbringing. Yeah, his dad died, but it was something that was unavoidable. Yeah. And he's still that beacon of hope, but he just has that morality, and he understands that even though he has all these great powers, he is limited in what he can do. But they're making him more and more tragic, and that's not what he's about. He's supposed, like him and Batman, supposed to be yin and yang. One's supposed to be darker, one's supposed to be lighter. Where's the they're just they're kind of the same character now. They're both tragic and both angry, both kind of morally ambiguous. What do you think about him killing Zod at the end?
It takes me out of it so bad again.
And what I don't understand, there's loads of people say, I can see the comments now, it's supposed to be, it clicks in his head that perhaps he shouldn't kill and whatnot. I would say for the most part of that film, most part of that fight, he is trying to kill him. He pushes his face against a building of glass and rubs it against
I get that, but I also appreciate the fact that that's being done for, visually, just for us as the audience to think, oh, that looks cool. But the way that the neck snap is done, and even the sound of it, that's not what Superman is. It's horrifying. And that shouldn't have been done like that. It shouldn't have been done like that.
Yes. And I didn't understand why he was so upset about it, in all honesty. It was odd, because there's no one in his ears. There should be someone in his ear saying, you should get rid of him, you need to kill him. Or someone in the other side saying, no, that's not what you should do, you should be... And I think that's where the Kents come in to it, and they say, no, you shouldn't be killing. The US Army should be in his ear saying, fucking kill this guy. You kill him immediately. And the Kents should be that moral ballast saying, if you do that, you're not that, people will fear you. And I think that's a good way to write the character. And then he could kill him, and then it would work, and he would perhaps realise, fuck, what the hell have I just done?
The problem is, though, is that what does he do in that situation? What would you do?
He could fly up into space, take him up there, no problem. There's ways around. He did not have to kill him. The only... Snapping his neck in the most horrifying manner was not the only option.
No, I'm with you. I agree. I'm with you. I don't think that... I think they completely got that wrong at the end. That is not what should have happened. I don't know what should have happened, but I think we could have found an alternative to the neck break.
I think you can just send him to the Phantom Zone, use him again. You can kill him if throughout the film he's being told not to do that and to do that, so he's got that little balance of ideals. But it just, for me, it doesn't work, and I imagine it scares small children as well.
Oh, without doubt, it scared me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, he gets buried in skulls, and then the noise. Jesus
it's not
Christ.
Crunch. It's not right. You're talking to someone here that watches my favorite genre of film is a horror film. I watch people getting killed all the time, but that wasn't right. For a Superman film, that wasn't right, mate.
Well, I think that we'll leave it there. Do you know what? Amazing. I've got through most of my notes.
That's been great. Surprised. I apologise to listeners.
I think you've learned a lot about Superman.
I learned loads. I didn't really contribute in any way, shape or form to the last half an hour of this podcast, but I really enjoy being part of it. Thank you.